2.5 millennia ago, Phoenician traders dominated the Mediterranean. Masters of the sea, they built lightweight cedar ships, carried precious metals, glass, and exotic goods, and established ports from Tyre to Carthage. History tells us their voyages were confined to the eastern Mediterranean, never crossing the Atlantic. But new discoveries along Florida's coast are challenging that assumption. Fragments of pottery, stone anchors, and traces of Mediterranean plants suggest the possibility of Phoenician landings in Miami centuries before Columbus. Could these ancient sailors have crossed oceans we thought they never reached? The answers might rewrite everything we know about early transatlantic exploration. Excavations at Biscayne Bay near the mouth of the Miami River have unearthed artifacts unlike anything previously documented in North America. Heavy, carefully shaped stone anchors, small ceramic fragments, and tools of copper and bronze were found embedded in layers of sediment dating back 2,500 years. Dr. Layla Mansour, a specialist in Mediterranean archaeology at the University of Alexandria, has examined these artifacts firsthand. The anchors are unmistakably Phoenician in design, Mansour says. They are triangular, drilled for rope lines, and polished to reduce drag, technology unique to Mediterranean seafarers of the first millennium BCE. Amphora fragments were sent for chemical residue analysis, revealing traces of wine and olive oil consistent with Phoenician trade goods. Radiocarbon dating of organic residues in these fragments places their origin at roughly 500 BCE, coinciding with the peak of Phoenician maritime activity. Other finds include bronze fishing hooks, a spindle whirl for spinning thread, and fragments of a small wooden hull preserved in waterlogged mud. Each piece tells a story not of a fleeting contact, but of sailors accustomed to long-distance trade and survival far from home. The assemblage is sparse, but the artifacts show a remarkable coherence with Mediterranean material culture. Phoenician seafarers were explorers, not just traders. Their colonies stretched from Cyprus to North Africa and the Iberian Peninsula, and they established ports along the Atlantic coast of Iberia. Written inscriptions from Carthage, recovered in modern Tunisia, describe voyages to the edge of the Western Sea, hinting at ambitions that extended beyond Europe. Yet, until now, scholars assumed that the Atlantic crossing would have been too hazardous for Phoenician vessels. There were no confirmed settlements, no permanent infrastructure, and certainly no artifacts directly linking the Phoenicians to North America. Biscayne Bay, however, offers a glimpse into the extraordinary. Here, layers of mangrove peat and sandy soil preserve small, durable artifacts and provide environmental context. Analysis of the sediment indicates human activity, including fire pits, tool use, and traces of imported food. Dr. Mansour emphasizes these finds are not conclusive proof, but they are the first material evidence suggesting that skilled Mediterranean sailors might have reached the Florida coast. The challenge now is to integrate archaeology, maritime engineering, and environmental science to understand what could have happened. The plausibility of such a journey rests on the ships themselves. Phoenician vessels were marvels of early engineering. Constructed from cedar planks lashed together with iron nails and hemp rope, they were both lightweight and flexible. Shallow drafts allowed navigation close to shore, while hulls reinforced with internal beams enabled open-sea voyages. A single square sail could be complemented by oars, making the ships highly maneuverable in both calm waters and stormy seas. Dr. Omar Haddad, a maritime historian, has studied Phoenician ship reconstructions in the Mediterranean. "We underestimate their skill," Haddad explains. "These sailors were adept at navigating currents, tides, and storms. From the Canary Islands, the Gulf Stream flows directly toward Florida. A small motivated crew could have made the crossing in stages, stopping at islands along the way. It would have been difficult, but it was physically possible." Experimental archaeology supports this theory. Modern reconstructions of Phoenician ships can carry several tons of cargo while maintaining stability in Atlantic conditions. Navigation relied on coastal landmarks, star positions, and knowledge of currents, all well within Phoenician expertise. Haddad notes that while the Atlantic crossing would have been perilous, it is a journey that aligns with the maritime culture and ambition of the Phoenicians. Once on the Florida coast, Phoenician sailors would have had access to an extensive network of rivers and estuaries. The Miami River, flowing into Biscayne Bay, connects to a series of tidal waterways, lakes, and mangrove channels. These natural corridors could have allowed short inland voyages, providing shelter, food, and timber for repairs. Archaeological layers in Biscayne Bay show evidence of foraging and temporary habitation. Charred nutshells and fish bones suggest repeated visits or prolonged stays. While there is no evidence of permanent settlements, the environment itself would have supported transient crews. Dr. Haddad points out, it's conceivable that crews could have traveled a few kilometers inland, establishing temporary camps, trading with local populations, and returning to the coast. The landscape presents no insurmountable barrier for sailors skilled in coastal navigation. Alongside confirmed artifacts, other finds in Florida raise questions about pre-Columbian contact. Isolated items, small coins, metal tools, and pottery shards, have been reported in the Everglades and Central Florida. Many lack excavation context, and some are held in private collections without proper documentation. Linguistic analysis, stylistic comparisons, and chemical assays are ongoing, but most scholars remain skeptical. Local oral traditions add another layer to the debate. Indigenous accounts describe pale-skinned visitors arriving by boat centuries before European colonization. While these stories cannot provide direct proof, they illustrate the enduring human memory of early encounters. As Dr. Mansour cautions, legends and isolated finds are intriguing, but without stratified archaeological context, they remain speculative. Science must differentiate between what could have happened and what is demonstrably true. In 2024, Dr. Mansour's team conducted cutting-edge research in nearby lagoons and tidal flats. Using piston cores, they extracted sediment layers dating back 500 BCE. Each layer acts as a natural archive, preserving pollen, seeds, and fragments of organic matter. In a sterile laboratory, the cores were sliced into thin intervals, and environmental DNA, eDNA, was extracted using meticulous controls to prevent contamination. The goal was to search for genetic traces of Mediterranean plants, animals, and humans. Using shotgun metagenomics and targeted mitochondrial capture, the team sequenced millions of DNA fragments. Preliminary results detected extremely faint signals consistent with Old World crops and livestock, grape seeds, olive pollen, and DNA fragments matching Mediterranean domesticated animals. These signals were rare, degraded, and far below 0.5% of total sequences, but they appeared exclusively in layers corresponding to 500 BCE. Dr. Mansour emphasizes these are tantalizing hints, not proof. Contamination from modern DNA, laboratory reagents, or later trade activity is possible. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. For now, we can say only that the DNA is consistent with the presence of Mediterranean species, not necessarily Phoenicians themselves. Taken together, the archaeological, maritime, and environmental data form a mosaic. Stone anchors, amphora fragments, and tools show material culture consistent with the Phoenicians. Maritime analysis demonstrates the technical possibility of an Atlantic crossing. Environmental DNA hints at the presence of Old World species along Florida's coast 2,500 years ago. Yet no settlement, burial, or continuous artifact sequence has been documented. Much of the evidence remains indirect, fragmentary, and open to alternative explanations. Researchers are careful to avoid sensationalism. As Dr. Haddad notes, the line between possibility and proof is thin. These sailors could have reached Florida, but whether they did and what impact they had is still unknown. If verified, Phoenician presence in Miami would reshape our understanding of ancient seafaring, transatlantic travel, and cultural exchange. It would suggest that the Americas were touched by Mediterranean sailors, centuries before the Viking explorations or European colonization. Such a discovery challenges assumptions about isolation, technology, and the capacity of ancient societies to navigate vast oceans. Equally, it underscores the importance of rigorous multidisciplinary research. Archaeology, genetics, and experimental maritime studies must converge to separate myth from evidence. Human imagination has long filled gaps in history with stories of ancient voyages, but only science can confirm whether those stories are grounded in reality.